Hey everybody, welcome out to the Dice Tower. My name is Chris Yee, and today I'm here to talk about my top 10 favorite word games. Word games tend to be party games where you're trying to pursue a single word as an answer, or you're trying to use a limited amount of words to describe something, or really quickly make your team guess it, something to that effect where words are the main driver, or the MacGuffin even of the game. And so these tend to be lighter, a little bit more raucous party games, or they can be ones that have a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. So I'm excited to talk about my 10 favorite word games here today. Notable exceptions. There's not going to be every game that you would expect to be on this list because these are my 10 favorite. And so, unfortunately, certain games like Just One and Paperback didn't make the cut, even though I'm excited to try the Paperback Adventures, the solo roguelike word card deck building game. There are some that aren't going to be on there, but that's okay. You'll survive, I promise. So let's start with my number 10. My number 10 is, I think, the oldest game on this list, Taboo. Taboo is, in my mind, the classic word game, and it's probably my bias of having grown up with it and really loving it since I was a kid. You are trying to make your team guess the word at the top of the card, but there are 5 words on the card that you cannot use as clues. It is so fun to try to make someone guess James Bond without being able to use 007, secret agent, spy, those types of things. Those words are taboo, and you'll get buzzed in the ear if you use one of those wrong words. I really like that tension. I like the real-time stress of it. I have a lot of fun with it. I've not played what seems to be kind of a modern take on it called Banned Words. I know Tom's a big fan of that one. I'd like to try that, where the opposite team writes words that you can't use, and I think that'd be a fun dynamic. But for simplicity, have a deck of cards, have a timer start going. I love Taboo, so it's my number 10. My number 9 is a game called Blank Slate. This is a type of game where you're just simply trying to write an answer to a prompt at the middle of the table that you think other people are also going to write as the response. I like that little dynamic. It is sort of Dixit inspired with that scoring of you want to try and guess what other people are going to write, and you want to try to match up with them. Very simple, very, very, very easy going, but a lot of fun. You can play this for score and everything, and you can play until a certain number of points, but it's one of those games that I just have fun kind of doing, and at some point, I guess someone wins, but whatever. That's my that's my number 8 Blank Slate. My number 9 Blank Slate. Number 8, what I meant to say, is Codenames Duet. I like Codenames. I like the general system. I think Duet is my favorite one, though. Codenames being the system of games where you have clues in the middle of the table, and you have to use a single word and then a number as your clues. So, Simpsons 5. I'm saying I think that there's 5 clues out there that correspond to The Simpsons, maybe. It is a lot of fun using that kind of knowledge that you have and making people guess what is out there. But Duet is my favorite version of this, wherein it is a 2-player or 2 teams working together version. There's a couple of assassins out there. There's 3 assassins, in fact, and it's risky to try to make your opponent guess one of those assassins, but the way that the clue cards are laid out, you have to guess at least one of the assassins that you see because your teammate doesn't have the same array on their cards. If you've not tried it, it's so worth it. It's my favorite version of Codenames. That's why my number 8 is Codenames Duet. My number 7 is to go on to the much sillier and less cerebral side. This is called Poetry for Neanderthals. Oh man, this party game is so silly. You are Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon. You can only use single-syllable words. Why? Because it sounds like caveman speak, right? So you have to, kind of like Taboo, make people guess a word, but you cannot use any words more than 1 syllable. How do you describe the word breakfast using only single-syllable words? You start to sound like a caveman as you speak when you say things like, meal when eat food in start of day, right? You can't say word morning. You can't say multiple syllable things. The tension is ridiculous. I really like Poetry for Neanderthals. It comes with an inflatable club that you can bonk someone on the head if they break the rules. We actually had that in one of our Dice Tower retreat vlogs from last year. It's so silly. It's super fun. That's why it's my number 7, Poetry for Neanderthals. My number 6 is a game that looks wildly more serious than that, but it's not actually that different. Number 6 is called Mystic Paths. This is a game about wizards and magical pathways that all have words on them, and you have to give clues to make people guess the correct word that your wizard should move on to. It's a stupid theme. It's so bizarre. It feels like the company had extra wizard miniatures lying around. The form factor of the game is wrong because you're supposed to use a ring for the wizard mini and you leave it behind on the previous space so that people don't guess you keep going on that space, but the ring covers up the word. It's so strange, but the game is great. In the game, you have everyone, multiple players, have this little hex grid around and they want to move on a specific path, and only that person knows what that is. So they're using cards to try to give clues about what the next step on their path is. And there's a lot that you can do with it. You can do multiple movements in a single turn, but it's, might be risky. I really like the way that it does it. And there's also these not tokens. So you have a hand of cards, so your clues are very limited. But I find that actually works really well. So, hey, out of these 5 or so cards in my hand, which clue most makes people think hippo instead of battleship? Like, I'm so limited by these cards. What do I do? But there's also a not token. So you can put out a card and say not the thing on this card. I think that the game gives you enough flexibility, but there's enough fun logic, and it's a really great cooperative word game. So that's why my number 6 is Mystic Paths. My number 5 is, this is one where you have to bide your words very cautiously, because number 5 is 25 words or less. This is also a very old game that has been repackaged, reskinned a few different times. Currently its skin is that of a game show of the same type of thing. You have a couple of words that you need to give clues to make your team guess. And you and one person from the opposite team are kind of reverse auctioning down how many words or less you think you can use to make your team guess all 5 of the clues. I could do this in 20 words or less, 19, 15 words or less, 12 words or less. You do it. So you have both this auction pressure where you're trying to push your opponent's team into lower words, or you are trying to take it and actually accomplish it. I think that dynamic is really fun. I love trying to give the clues as you're sitting there using clues. Every word is so precious because you only have 9 words you can use to make people guess 5 clues. And so the stress is palpable. It's really fun. So my number 5, 25 words or less. Highly recommend it for a neat group party setting. My number 4, if you want to talk about palpable stress, my number 4 is called Stay Cool. Stay Cool is a disaster in a box. It's so glorious. When it's your turn, the person on your left and the person on your right are each giving you clues, easy questions that you have to answer, all with words. But one person you have to answer audibly with spoken words, and the other person you have to answer with words that you spell out with dice with different letters on them. It is so aggravating and so amazing. I do not fault anyone who doesn't like this game, but I love it. I love this idea of multitasking, bisecting your brain, trying to answer 2 different things, trying to spell physically and answer audibly. Oh my goodness, it has led to some of the funniest turns when you just watch other people take the turn and then it's back to you and you go, oh no, what's going to happen? It is so fun. That's why my number 4 is called Stay Cool. Number 3 is one of the newest on this list, I believe. Number 3 is So Clover. This is a game wherein you have a little clover with cards that have words on all 4 sides and a hole punched in the middle, and you actually physically arrange them onto this clover. You are dealt them randomly, and you have to make a word on each of the 4 leaves of the clover that will make the other players at the table guess the combination of those 2 words together. So they have to rearrange, they have to re-put that exact same structure of cards onto your board. And so you have to give clues that try to make people guess both of the words facing each side. It is such a cool dynamic. It's a very fun cooperative game. The whole table is invested the whole time. It is fun to be guessing and rearranging other players' clues. It is fun and agonizing when people are trying to guess and rearrange yours, and you're sitting there going, oh, they're so close, they're so close. No, don't move that card again. No! It's so fun. I really love So Clover. It lives up to its name. It's a game that almost sounds like it shouldn't work, but it does. So it's my number 3. My number 2? Decrypto. Decrypto is the least party feeling of all of these games. It is very cerebral of a game. You're trying to use word clues to make people guess a sequence. The sequence is you have 4 words in front of you, your word number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so I draw a card and I want to make my team guess the sequence 4, 1, 2. I'm going to give clues corresponding to the word in the 4th slot, 1st slot, and 2nd slot. Your team sees all of the words. You have 4 words for the whole game facing you, but you need to give clues that aren't too obvious, because if the other team figures out what your words are, they will start to be able to guess your sequence. It is very cerebral. It's a tricky teach, but it's so fun. It has a neat theme, a great production, but just the fact that you are always pushing this knife's edge of trying to give clues that aren't too obvious so that the other team ends up decrypting your words, but you're also not trying to make your clues so strange and such a leap that your team can't guess your own sequence. You're penalized either way. But if you tread that straight and narrow just right, it is one of the best word games I think that's out there. So my number 2, Decrypto. And lastly, number 1, this is my favorite. It's my favorite kind of game to end and wind down like a late night of gaming or a convention or so. My number 1 is called Insider. This is an Oink Games party game, word game. If this one is hard to find, it's basically the exact same game as Werewords, wherein players at the table, one person knows a secret word, and they will be answering yes/no questions. It's 20 questions, right? But one of the people at the table is a traitor because they also know the word. So they have that strange balance of trying to make sure that the word gets guessed by the end of the 3-minute sequence or so. But they can't be so obvious. They know what the word is, but they have to blend in with the rest of the normies that don't know what the word is, asking these 20 questions. And if a few minutes have passed by and that person who knows, the traitor at the table, okay, I need to start asking questions to really get people on track. But if you do it too obviously, you'll get called out and then you'll lose the round. It is a wonderful mix of pressure and questioning and learning information and trying to deduce what the right answer is without looking too obvious. And the other players also need to guess the right word. I think it's probably my favorite social deduction game because it doesn't quite feel like a typical werewolf mafia social deduction game. It's a word game at its heart, and it's so fun and so good. So there you go. My top 10 favorite word games. Hope that was a fun list. If you haven't tried any of these, I recommend every single one of them, of course. And of course, there are other great ones out there. And just because it didn't make my list doesn't mean I don't like it, nor I'm ignoring it. But if there are others I didn't say, go ahead and share those in the comments so people can check out other great recommendations as well. As for me, I hope that y'all have a fantastic rest of the day. I will be as well here at Dice Tower headquarters. Have a great one.